Hey everyone, how are you? I hope all is well. I am the host of Parenting is Easy podcast, Chananya Abraham, and I'm so glad you're joining us today. Such an amazing episode. And I know I've said this before, but I really mean it when I say I think this could have been one of, if not my most favorite conversations that I've ever had on the podcast with Sean Donahue, who is a teen and adolescent and tween parenting coach. Such an amazing conversation, talking about judgmentalism, talking about how to have a proper connection, talking about how to be able to foster the best version of ourselves so that we can parent the child for what they need. Whereas the conversation went to a place of parent the child for what they need, not the child that you were, is one of a book that came up within the awesome conversation today. I think there are so many different ways that this conversation could have gone. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties. We had to abruptly end this conversation. But I would love for everyone and anyone has any questions, any follow-up, to please reach out to us at parentingiseasypodcast@gmail.com. And you can follow us on social media as well. And please like and subscribe anywhere you listen to podcasts. Comment, critique, question anything that we do, because we don't know what we're doing most of the time, just like in our parenting. And I think there's going to bring great conversation. So I hope you enjoyed this episode in its entirely, which unfortunately had to end a little bit abruptly, but at the same time, such an awesome conversation. Oh yeah, and we got to talk a little bit about the book Wonder, the movie Wonder, which is an amazing book, and I highly recommend everyone to please read that, because I think it goes so far regarding how to help a child for what they need. Enjoy the awesome episode.
Oh, Sean, I'm so happy we're finally getting a chance to do this. This has been such a long time coming, and there are so many different areas that I think that we can really go to. But there's something that's come up recently in my office as a therapist that I wanted to shoot by you, and maybe we can sort of talk about.
Let's do it.
And I think the concept when it comes to teenagers specifically and judgmentalism and what they have on themselves, what they have regarding their expectations from parents, and probably I would say the hardest one specifically from their peers. And I just want to have a talk to you regarding the concept of teenagers specifically with their inner self-critic and the judgmentalism that comes about from others, that comes about from themselves. How can we make sure that kids are having that healthy self-confidence with a little bit of criticism, a self-critic inside of them that helps them be the best version of themselves, but at the same time they know how to have a filter regarding the influences that could be outside or external?
Well said. Yeah, what a great question. I got three thoughts that come to mind. The first thought is, have you seen the movie Wonder, Chananya, by any chance? Wonder.
Yes.
Luke.
Yeah.
It just
Which, by the
Netflix.
way, I think is I was about to say that. Yes.
So I saw that for the first time 2 nights ago. I actually did a whole podcast on a movie review, and I took 3 big takeaways from the movie. It's a brilliant movie. You should definitely see it. It's on Netflix. It's about this kind of focus on this young boy who's got a face deformity and him going into school for the first time. And it kind of just really captures adolescence and the pains of everyday life and the parents and the kids and the drama. And so when you asked me that question, that's the first thing I thought of, because one of the takeaways I got from that movie, Hanyanya, is that, you cannot shield your kids from pain. You cannot protect them from pain. You cannot we are powerless over so much of their life, including their inner voice. I even have a little thing that I shared on the podcast, and I said something like, unless you're a mind reader, a psychic, or you walk around with your kids on one of those freaky dog leashes that you see at amusement parks, you will not know everything that's going on in your kid's life or in their brain. So my first response, I got 3-part responses. Now, how can we make sure our kids' inner self voice, which is so key, so important, is healthy? I don't think we can. I think we can do a lot. I know we can do a lot. So I'm not going to leave you hanging here, but I don't think we can control it. That's my first thought response. What are your thoughts on my first response?
So the first thing I would say is I would highly recommend, actually, if people can read the book of Wonder before they watch the movie. I feel like it captures so much more of that inner hurt that the boy feels and his trepidations and having the support from his parents. The movie does a great job, and I'm not knocking it. And I think Julia Roberts is absolutely amazing. And at the same time, I also think that reading the book, it goes a deeper level regarding capturing that specific moment that you're talking about. So that's really the first thing. And I think the topic that I'm thinking about, as you said, it comes down to two words, something that I talk about in my office a lot, and that's radical acceptance. It's a DBT concept for those of you who might be familiar with it. But the concept of being able to accept what's happening doesn't mean that you agree with it, but it's going to happen, and it's there. The outside world is around us, and I think it's something that it's important for us to realize that the world happens, and unless we're going to literally live in a bubble or we're going to live on a mountaintop with no one else, our kids are going to be out there. They're going to be in the world. So what's our role? How do we deal with that? How do we put ourselves in a place to let them explore, but at the same time be the support for them? I do have an analogy that I usually talk about, but I'm curious to sort of hear from you as you finish those three parts before I get to my analogy.
Just to echo what you just said, like the reason why these kids all show up with so much love, so much maturity, and so much inner strength is actually because the parenting that had been done before the movie had even taken place. So like on the surface, it looks like the kids are the hero of the film, but actually you could make the argument they're not. It's the parents had done, in the first 15 minutes, you show the parents doing all this emotion coaching, these family dinners, gentleness, encouragement, cheerleading, checking in with them. And then you see these kids go out there and kind of get eaten up in the world. They overcome these obstacles. So that's the kind of the second point. It was really kind of what you echoed there. And then the third point is that the most powerful voice in a child's life is not the voice of a parent. I'm a spiritual person, and I love God and I believe in God, but I it's kind of controversial today to even say this, but I believe it, that the most powerful voice in someone's life is not even God. The most powerful voice in someone's life is their own voice, because everywhere they go, their inner voice goes with them. So one thing to answer your question, the third part would be, how can we make sure, help our kids, is we could ask them, like, what kind of thoughts are running through your head right now? Or if they do self-deprecation, I hate myself, I'm a loser, no one likes me. And then you can say, is that really what you think about yourself? Like, instead of just correcting it and actually create a dialogue with it and help it come out and help them process, help them see how it's normal to be hard on yourself sometimes, but then coach them through that. Help them see like, hey, this can be a normal thing to do, to, criticize yourself or to be hard on yourself. That's how we grow. But there's this line between like normal, good health talk. When you cross that line, you're into shame, self-shame, and that is not good. And these are like really powerful words. So in this work that we do with our kids and what we're doing with each other right now, words are really important. Like guilt, explaining that, and shame. And if you ask 10 people what is the difference in guilt and shame, you're going to get 10 different responses. For me, I do not like the word shame. I don't think it's healthy for me, for my kids, for anyone.
One of the things that we're talking about is the importance of parents when it comes to the role, but at the same time, the most important thing, and I do agree with you. I'm also a very spiritual person, yes. And I do believe God plays a very, very big part in who we are, and who we are as parents as well. But I think the biggest voice that we can have is the one that we have inside of us. And I think something that you said that really struck me is parents making sure that they don't validate or non-validate a child, like, oh, you shouldn't be feeling that way, but when a child is saying something that their inner self-critic is really right. Negative, like, oh, I suck at sports, like, okay, what does that mean? When we stay curious and not judgmental, we're able to go ahead and foster a dialogue, which is the most important thing. Dialogue that is negative is still very good dialogue to have.
Yes. And
what we want to be able to do is work through it, not around it. We want to be able to work with that. And I think that's the role of us as parents.
Yes.
Exactly. So I'm curious.
Work with it.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah. Easier said than done, though. It's easier said than done because, like, for me, I've never really struggled. I struggle with many things, but I've never really struggled with negative self-talk. But one thing I do struggle with is kind of embarrassing to say is I struggle with like hair picking and like trichophilia mania. And so I've struggled with this my whole life, and like as a stress thing. And so when I see my kids like saying negative things about themselves, I could be a cool cat. I could enter in and do all my good skills. But if I see them doing something that like they're picking at their hair, right, it freaks me out. But this is the challenge of parenting because, right, our kids, it's so emotional and our kids trigger us. So like so much of what we're talking about on these podcasts and what parenting quote experts or psychotherapists talk about is so hard because it's so emotional, right? It's so emotional when your kid says, I have no friends, no one likes me. I mean, that is tough. I mean, that's heartbreaking. And then to enter in with a dialogue about that, it's is really, so really hard.
Could you talk a little bit about like how can we work with the parents specifically, because this is who's listening to this conversation between you and I, Sean. How can we talk to parents in a way where, okay, your kid has this negative talk and there's shice load of emotions that are happening right now. What's the role of the parent? How can they stay aware, mindful, grounded, and have a cool, calm, collected way to themselves so that they can deal with their children properly?
So everybody likes being around good listeners. Everyone think of someone in your life, and I'm going to ask you, if I put you on the spot, Hannah, when you think of like someone in your life who's a really great listener, do you have someone in mind? Who are you thinking of? And what qualities are you? Is it a man or a woman, a relative, or a friend? What are one or two qualities that you're thinking of at this person?
So what comes to mind is actually the first person that came to mind is actually my brother-in-law, my wife's brher, who is I think a phenomenal listener.
Wow,
and
that's awesome, man.
Listen to this.
Well, he's a good listener, so he should.
Yeah, he really is. And I think what it comes down to is that he is curious and authentically curious about whatever it is that he's talking about with you, and he asks questions. Sometimes they can be, like a simple, like, oh yeah, it was just around the corner. Or sometimes like, oh, I don't know, let me think about that. And it really depends. But I think it's the fact that he's looking you in the eye and he's paying attention to you, and like the conversation he's having with you is just about you, and like everything else
just
is secondary.
about you.
So that's really comes to mind.
My like heart is kind of getting warm right now because I do a lot of caring in my life. I care for people. I listen. I care for my clients. I love to care for my wife, my kids. I love to be a caring friend, ask them questions. I am probably a very, very good listener. And it really bothers me, man, if I'm hanging out with some friends and like they're not really listening to me, I'm only listening to them. It's like a thing I have. It's like a serious thing. Like if you were my wife, you would know. It's more than a pet peeve. It's like if I go to a party, I know I'm gonna leave that party and I'm gonna know a lot about the people there. And I'll leave a party and I'll go through a whole party and not one person will really ask me a question about myself. And now I'll be like, that party sucked. I don't want to be friends with any of those people. And it just is like, I don't know if it's a place of woundedness or it's just I'm really good at observing this topic because listening is so important to me. But I think most people suck at listening, man. They really do. I think that, and I don't blame them because it's like it can be a cultural thing, but it's also an educational thing. Our kids are never going to take a class on some of the most important topics in the world, like how to be a good listener, how to manage your emotions, how to regulate your screen use, how to stand up for yourself in a proper way. And so I think that when I think of listening, I've done a lot of work and research around this, and I can go on and on and on about this, but here's a quick little acronym. Everyone likes to be seen. Everyone likes to be seen. That's kind of what the movie is actually about, Wonder. It's just seeing. It's on the surface is about bullying and hard times, but really it's about everyone wants to be seen. So when you want to listen to your kids or somebody, remember, I see you. I see you. I see you. I stands for interest. Show interest in the person. Interest, curiosity, just understand them, their point of view, interest. C stands for care. Have a caring tone. Have a caring face. Use your eyes and your lips and your face to send a message, I care. Because you can show interest to somebody, but if you don't have care in your voice or in your vibe, you're just like a robot, you're like a Roomba. Just doing a job. You don't really care. And you is understanding. Just, you don't have to agree with your child when they say, I want to drop out of school and be a professional gamer. You don't have to agree with your child when they say, I want to be on Snapchat Unlimited and keep my streak going of 20,000. You just want to understand them in their world. I see you. Everyone wants to be seen.
Yeah. I love that. And there's so many different things that come into mind. Again, as a psychotherapist, I think the thing that's come to mind is, I think the word that has really been ingrained into my brain is validation, which I think we're saying the same thing. I happen to like the I see you better than validation, to be honest, not that you're saying it. But yes. I think the concept of realizing that validation or there's another word that I like saying is also radical acceptance. Is it's not necessarily about agreeing with the person, right? I see you doesn't say that you agree with them. I think it's fair to say that most parents listening to this, or maybe the people that you deal with, they're not going to say, oh, you know what, you want to continue that on Snapchat? That's a great idea. Let's do that. Most parents are not going to be saying that.
Right.
But at the same time, they have to be able to be with their child and be with them. So seeing it from their point of view. And this leads me to the second really big topic. And I'm so happy that you brought it up this way. It's an awesome segue. Okay, cool. When we talk about parenting for the child and not parenting to be a parent. And I think this concept, and my wife and I are blessed to have 5 kids, and ranging from 3 to 16, and it's so much fun. It's amazing, and there are so many different things that happen. And at the same time, I would say, if someone asked me what's the hardest part about being a parent, is that making sure that I'm the best parent for my 16-year-old girl who wants to get her license tomorrow, and being the same exact parent for my 13-year-old son, and being the same parent for my 3-year-old boy, and making sure, and obviously for the other 2 girls that are in the middle there as well. But I'm just saying, making sure that I'm the best I can for each individual, for what they need at their time, no matter what age, and no matter how tired I might be. So I'm curious, and I want to open this for discussion over here regarding how can we parent to be the best parent for that child?
Okay, here's 2 things that come to mind. I love this little cliche. I say it a lot. I think I stole it from somebody 5 years ago, but I say it so much now. I think people might think when they see me on social media, they think, "Oh, that's what Sean says." I love this. It goes like this: you got to parent the child you have, not the child you want.
Yes.
Some people. One of my friends, Bree, she wrote a book called "Parent the Child You Have, Not the Child You Were." So first thing that comes to mind is that when you hear those 2 little sayings, hi, and I know your work. What do you think of? What comes to mind for you?
The first thing that comes to mind is I have to get that book. To be honest, that's really the first thing that comes to mind, because I do agree with that. And
I'll Google it right now as you listen. I'll Google.
I have this
I'll Google her last name. Yeah.
Okay. And I think the thing that comes to mind is having situations, because let's say, I mentioned 3 of my kids. So I have 2 girls that are 11 and 10 years old, and as close as they are, and they share a room, they also have very, very different personalities, and the way they dress, their demeanor, their scholastic capabilities, and their personal talents are so far from each other. And I have to make sure when it comes to disciplining, when it comes to structure or non-structure, which is also very important in parenting, maybe we could talk about that soon. Making sure that the needs that they get are so important. And I have this vision of sitting in their room and having a discussion with one of them, and the other one saying, "Hey, but you did blank and blank with me." And I was like, "Oh, you're right." But at the same time, I'm trying to give a message that no, right now I'm talking to her for what she needs, and that's really important. And you're someone else, so I have to deal with you, and I have to talk to you and reprimand you differently because you're someone else. And that's what was coming to mind, just regarding making sure that I am able to deal with each child individually. So I'm curious, Sean, to hear from you. Like, when we talk about, parenting, because I think there's 2 points to what you're saying. There's the, parenting for the child, like I was asking you before, and then your friend's book, which I think is something that I would like to read and I haven't read. Parent your child for what they need, not for who you were and the way you were parented. So I think that's a separate topic. But I think different generations deal with different things. But I first want to concentrate on this point of making sure that we're parenting the child for who they are and not for what the other child is, or like you were saying, what we want them to be, but for what they need.
Yeah, really, really easier topic to talk about that actually parent in the real world. So my oldest is 19, then I got 14 and 8. And what's kind of like, here's like a comical take on what you just said. I love basketball. I'm pretty skilled at it. I played year-round basketball growing up. I still play pickup basketball. And so when my oldest daughter decided that she was going to play basketball for the first time and I was going to be her coach, I was like, what? It's like a dad's dream, right? I get to coach in my game, in my sport. And she went out there and she gave about 50% effort. And it's in those moments where you have to really remember what is true parenting. What is it about? And it's in that moments like that that you have to like ask yourself, like, what type of parent do you want to be? And so what happened is that the season continued, and she continued to give about 50% effort, and she scored 0 points the entire year. She didn't make one basket, and we had a blast. And it was incredible. We won 0 games, and I did not care. Well, that's not true. I wanted to win. But you know what? It's like, this is the thing, like, it's like, it's a game. It's basketball. And I could have parented that differently. I could have said, no, this is a game. If you're going to play a sport, you got to give it your all. That's not good enough. I could have said, like, no, if you're going to be on the team, you have to be committed to the team. I could have done all those things, but that could have been me projecting my ego, my relationship with basketball, my feelings towards sports, and onto her. When in reality, it's a child's game. She was a 6th grade girl at the time, and I don't put 100% effort into a lot of the things I do. I put 50% effort in a lot of things I do. So why are we demanding our kids put 100% effort into things that we want them to do? And it's a game, and I could have, and I didn't, and I could have ruined the game of basketball for her by being a weird parent. And I know that's kind of like,
and it probably would have had a really drastic effect on the parenting.
And I might have murdered my relationship with my daughter. And you know what? She played the next year too. And guess how many baskets she scored the next year, dude? Guess how many baskets? 0. 0. 2 years. And you know what a stud she is. She got good at rebounding and passing, and she knows she sucked at basketball, and I know she sucks, and who cares? She's great at so many other things, and we just had a blast together. And so, like, when you see your kids not being like you, not being as clean as you, not being as moral as you, not being as into their spirituality as you, not cleaning the room as you want them to do, not pursuing science as much as you want them to pursue science, not doing ballet or lacrosse the way you want to, you've got to check yourself and say, okay, all right. I love this child. This child is not me. They are not my little mini me. They're not my little bonsai tree that I can just snip and make just like me. They are their own like person. And I am blessed with this gift of this child that God has given me. And I want to nurture them and care for them and guide them and lead them and love them the way they should be loved, not the way I want to, love them.
Oh, you bring up such a good point over there regarding the love. But before I get to that, I'm curious to hear from you, Sean. Like, what was that experience like for you, and how do you think that parenting / coaching your daughter, what effect did that have on you as a parent to your daughter and that relationship?
It was hard. It was definitely hard because I really love basketball, and but I realized a few games in, she's really maybe not doing this for her. She's actually doing it for me. That's my answer. She was playing basketball for me, not because she wanted to, because she knew how much it would mean to me. And I was like, wow, man, like this girl, when you think of like the 5 love languages, she's not really great at using words. She's not really touchy-feely. She's not into gifts. She doesn't, and she's her thing is acts of service. And so with her, she's 19 now. What I realized is that when she would ask me for help for something, I would often say no, because I'm trying to raise a strong woman, and I'm trying like, you got this. You can do this yourself. You got this. Like I remember one time, she had her car, Chananya, she had her car and her wiper blade was broken or dirty. And she asked me, can I help you fix it? Or she asked me, can you help me fix it? I said, no, I can go down there, but you can do this yourself. And I'm thinking I'm doing a good parenting right now. Like, she's 16, she can change her own wiper blades. And I know I really hurt my daughter that day. I hurt my daughter that day big time. I hurt her feelings because her love language is acts of service. And she's a 16-year-old girl, and she wanted someone to help her with her wiper blades. And I realized, what have I done? And what have I been doing? I've been missing it with her. Her love language is acts of service. That's how she showed me love on the basketball court, And so now, anytime this girl asks me for something, my goal is 100%. I want to jump up and I want to serve. And I do. I don't ask any questions. I'm like, I love it. She's asking me for help and I want to do it. She moved out. She did amazing for a year. She rocked it at her job. She got numerous promotions. And then she said, I want to move back in. So she just moved back in last week. We're happy to have her. She's
Amazing.
19.
Amazing. And so you bring up, going back to that analogy I told you that I had, and I think that you actually are like living proof to it. So the way I like talking about it with parents is for them to realize that our job as parents is what we're constantly doing from infantry all the way until probably like mid-teenage years, where the concept of autonomy and identity and self is coming about. Our job is to give them these these like little boxes of, I guess you say those, those little jewelry boxes that you get, like, the piece of jewelry in, or like the first earrings. So what we're doing constantly for the first, let's say 13, 14, 15 years of a child's life, we're giving them hundreds and thousands of boxes. And in each of them are little things that they've picked up from their home, whether it's, how to clean up after a big family meal, how to react when someone spills on the couch, to how to deal with bedtime, how to deal with stress from work. The list goes on. And
that's
kids
good.
Are getting thousands of them. And they put them into this big, outdoor garbage bag that they put over their shoulder, and they start walking out the front door. And that's what they're going to be taking with them as they are now going into life. Now, what happens is, as they go out the front door, they realize, ooh, this bag is a little bit big and I can't take everything with me here. I got to leave some things here. So what do? They turn around. The job of the parents is to stand by the door, put their hands out, and say, all right, you could give me back some stuff, and we're going to wait here by the door. And kid puts back some of those little boxes. And then the child gets out. And when they realize, oh, I forgot something, they come back and they grab one box from the mom's hand and they put it back in their box. They run out. And as they're running, they realize, this is really heavy. Let me put some stuff back. And they come back and they put more stuff by mom and dad. And the job of mom and dad now becomes not giving them boxes, but letting them know where the boxes are, and they can come back and get them at any time. And I think that's like the vision I like parenting to have, because I think it's so important for us to realize is that our roles change when it comes to being a parent. And we might be teaching them how to put a toothbrush in their mouth and go up and down and get the little crevices in the back of their mouth. But we're not doing that to our 16-year-olds anymore. Yeah. And our roles change, and how to deal with, whether it's emotions from a relationship breakup, how to deal with a first job, how to deal with a best friend that just messed them over with something. That's going to be a whole different world of parenting than the toothbrush. And I think that's something that we have to be very cognizant about, and realize that our roles change. Our job is to make sure that we stay by the door. And I like adding this, is that make sure that door is always open. Doesn't have to be, unlocked. Doesn't have to be open as in, come back whenever, because our job as parents is to teach identity of self and autonomy and independence. And at the same time, for their kids to also realize that they can come back. To paraphrase a mentor of mine, he likes saying it as, I want to make sure I'm getting this right. He says, instead of a child, especially a teenager, saying the words, I don't want my parents to find out, make sure you teach your kids to be, I can't wait to tell my parents. And I think there's a little difference in that. It's such a subtle little difference, but yet so important, because who doesn't want their 19, 20-year-old child to come back to their home and say, hey, you'll never guess what happened. I got a promotion, or, my girlfriend wants to do something, So I think it's so important. So I love what you're saying.
That's the dream.
I think it's really, really, really good.
Tell me, give me a little insight into your home real quick. Tell us something with your 5 kids. tell us one of those boxes that you love teaching, or tell us a little lesson that you recently taught one of your kids, if you could. Just give us a little personal story of a lesson that came up in your home life.
Oh, that was
recently.
okay.
Or just something that is like really a part of your moral system or your values that you love teaching.
Okay, so I think this is one I assume, my wife and I assume that everyone deals with, but maybe you can be the judge of that. So now over here, at least here in the Northeast, it's much nicer weather, and the kids are outdoors a lot more, which is awesome. And I think, like a lot of households, there's a certain time, or at least a time slot, that's supposed to be dinner time, and our kids will be outside playing with their friends, and we feel so blessed to live in the community, and our kids having friends that, like, we cannot see them from the second they get off that school bus until literally bedtime. Like, it's amazing. It's really absolutely awesome. And sometimes they'll come in and they'll say, "Oh, where's dinner?" Like, well, dinner was from 6:45 to 7:45. It's 8:30 right now. Are you hungry? You could go make yourself a sandwich, a peanut butter jelly sandwich. And I think it's at a point now, at least with our 10-year-old, she came in literally last night and she's like, "Hey, how come the kitchen is cleaned?" We're like, "Well, what time is it?" She's like, "Oh, it's 8:35." And we saw her shoulders go down. We saw her like her brain scanning. She's like, "All right, I'll just make myself a sandwich." I'm like, "Okay, great, no problem." And it just like continued. My wife and I gave like a little look. We gave a little look at each other, and for her, it was just like it was like second nature of like, "Oh, this is what I need to do now." And it wasn't, with that grunt or that eye roll that she's getting very good at. It was just like, this is something that she knows. This is what happens in the Abraham household, and this is the way we go about things. So I think that's the first thing that came to mind as you were talking. I'm curious for you, Sean. What would be something that would be in one of those boxes that recently has come out with your teenagers?
You know what, a word I'm really been talking a lot about in our home is the word gentleness. We're a fiery family and strong personalities, and I host family meetings occasionally. And one of the things that I think we all struggle with in our home is something that I'm just continuing to try to lead my family in, is gentleness and how we speak to each other. If you think about it, in some families, they're really unhealthy families. They're kind of dysfunctional in how they talk to each other. They have these fear cycles that go, and if that one family would just improve the gentleness in their home and how they speak to each other, then like so many problems would be solved. And so that's something that is just really important to me, and just guiding them and like, hey, this is your family. We love each other, and this is how we speak to each other when we get angry or when things get hard. We want to speak kindly to each other, because my kids, everyone's very kind outside the house. I mean, that's not an issue. Like, my kids are extremely great outside the house, but just like in most normal homes, inside the house, it's a different story. And it really doesn't need to be that way. It doesn't.
No,
like, we should put our family first.
I love this example.
Yeah, like
I want to hear more about these family meetings. These family meetings sound awesome. Not that I want to be a fly on the wall, but I'm curious if you could give us a little insider's tip regarding where they are, how you present them, and how they're organized and dealt with within the family dynamics.
Oh yeah, man. Family meetings are definitely the cat's meow. They are like, and we all have these parenting toolboxes, and we can only use the tools we have. But if you're listening to this as a parent, if you can become skilled as a leader of family meetings, or even better, your goal would be how to make family meetings a part of your home culture. That way, like, for example, if I call my teenagers and I say, "Hey guys, we're going to have a family meeting tonight," they're like, "Okay." And they don't complain, they don't whine, they know what happens, they can trust it. They can trust it's going to be a good experience. They kind of know what we do. And we kind of rally to come together to solve problems, to address problems. The main topic that we have addressed over the 19 years when it comes to family meetings, because we've addressed many topics, is the sibling arguing, the sibling fighting. Because, the sibling issues, they affect everybody.
Oh, so it's not only in my house. Okay, did not know this. This is phew, okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yes, and so and because if my kids were twins, they would be hard. If my kids were close in age, that would be hard. But my kids are all very different in age, 19, 14, and 8. And so that just makes it hard too, because they're like have a hard time relating to each other. They annoy each other. They're in different stages of life. And so some of the quick hacks for family meetings is, you always want to keep them short and sweet, not too long, especially in the beginning. Number 2, realize that if your kids are salty or they're negative, that's totally normal. Just be patient and let them work out the kinks. Just be patient through that process. Number 3, make sure that you have good foods involved or they've already eaten. And 4 is very important. Just always start off by talking about very positive things. You want them to feel emotionally safe, like in these meetings. Like they're not going to get picked on, and we're a team. We're rallying the team, because if you think about it, sports teams gather for practices on a regular basis. They have half times, and then they have post-game meetings. Businesses, they get together on a regular case to get all the employees together to team up.
Hey, everyone. I'm so sorry about this communication issues that I've been having with Sean. This is such probably my favorite conversation that I think I've had on the podcast so far. And unfortunately, I guess geographic and internet connection did not agree with us. But I hope you guys really enjoyed this amazing episode regarding talking about communication and how to parent each child specifically for themselves. And just like a finishing thought over here as we wrap up this episode, I think the really important thing to realize when it comes to parenting is that it's not a one-trick pony. And every child, every situation needs a different version and point of view being involved with them. And there is no one book out there that's going to say, do this. Or there is no one situation where all right, I know what to do in this situation. Every situation is different and beautiful and customized for what that situation needs to be. And as a parent, being there and parenting that child for what they need. Sometimes it might be tough love. Sometimes it might just be, I'm going to help you. It might just be, I'm going to help you do your room or your homework. I'm going to help you with it. I'm not going to do it for you necessarily. There might be situations where doing it for them might be the right thing to do. So it's about knowing what to do in that situation. That's something that we talk about both on this podcast in the past. I talk about it in my office a lot, the concept of ABC. Always be curious. Be curious about what's happening. What are the parameters? What is the situation? How am I dealing with this right now? Or how's my child dealing with this right now? How can I help them for what they need? And sometimes if they're feeling defeated, something happens socially with them. What they might need from me is for me to get the food from them from the fridge. That usually I'll say, get your own food, get your own snack. But I might need to do just a little bit more. And our job as a parent is to understand that we have to adjust as much as possible. And it's on us to decide how we're going to go about doing things. And that's, I think, the biggest message that I took from our conversation with Sean is realizing that there are so many different ways to go about things, whether it's playing sports, responsibilities at home, or overall their own feelings for themselves and who they are as human beings. Our job is to be there as much as possible. If you have any questions, if you want to continue this conversation, please feel free to reach out. Parenting is Easy podcast@gmail.com. You can find us on social media as well. I look forward to continuing this awesome conversation, and hopefully one day we get a chance to continue having this conversation with Sean and learn from his really, really helpful wisdom. Have a great day.